Well, here is what we have going on today. If you didn't follow along in the last video, Jared had this 8320 running last night. He put the engine in here yesterday afternoon. Had it running last night. Going through some final put together items or some final things here before we roll it out the door. We're going to go ahead and put it on the manure pump here first thing. He's got to hook up the drive coupler now that goes to the transmission. So in a couple hours, he'll be able to pull this out. I'm going to put it on the manure pump and just let it run. Kind of put it under load. Make sure the coolant system's up to par as far as coolant levels and all that stuff, and make sure everything is going to be good on it before we end up putting the hood on. Another thing that we're working on is this green diller trailer. They ended up running a needle scaler around it. Cleaned up all this area here from this point down. And what we're going to do is we're going to apply POR 15 to this area here. Then we're going to go ahead and put a new set of fenders on it. They're going to pull the wheels off today. We've got to put brakes on this trailer and so on and so forth. We're going to run outside here. Tim just got back with the 7720. About a month or 6 weeks ago, we were having an issue. It was probably back towards January. We were having an issue with this, with where it would not build any heat. And we'd put coolant in it, and after it got up to working temperature, it would push the coolant right out the overflow reservoir. So we had discovered that it had a head gasket that was gone. This tractor's got somewhere around 22,000 hours on it. We'll look here in a minute. But with as much work as we've got going on, and as behind as we were and dealing with the problems that the 8320 had, we just felt it was better to ship this off. And Kaz ended up putting a reman engine in it. And I just happened to notice here that this engine is black, but you could see the construction yellow underneath. So this must have come out of a payloader or something like that. It's a 6.8 liter engine. It's actually the same engine that we have in our 624 payloader. So, I don't know why Deere couldn't put some green paint on there.
I asked Jake about it when it was sitting on the rack. I was over there one time. I said, you gonna throw some green paint on that? He's like, no. I'm like,
it gives it character.
It was before all this was put on, so
yeah,
you know, they could have done it easily.
Well,
but
hopefully we have good luck. Different guys say that these remans are not really the thing to be doing, but we're going to try this one. We do have, or had, a reman engine that we had put in, or John Deere put in the 624 loader here back a couple of years ago. They do have a 2-year warranty. You have to have the dealer put it in, though, in order to take advantage of the warranty. As easy as these engines are to take in and out, because this tractor has a frame in it, and you know, it's not, you don't have to split it like you do these older ones. So Tim will go ahead and back this off of there. We're going to go ahead and put it on the mixer wagon, get working it. You can see it's still got the tire chains on there, and we've got a soft tire here that we're going to have to address. Oh, actually we got 2 soft tires. So it sounds pretty good. He doesn't know that there's a reverser. Oh, there, he just remembered it. Gets everybody every time. Yeehaw. Well, we'll join up with you in a while here. And we might as well walk around this other side here. I don't know where he's going. He's gonna make me walk too far. Well, we'll look that over at another time here. He's actually gonna park it where they're going to bring a load of stone. That'd be good. Whoa, right there. Back up, back up. Got a load of crusher run coming to fix this driveway here. That's good. We got a cone setting there for Smith's driver. So yeah. Very nice. Well, here we are up to this point. We'll kind of fill you in on what's going on here. They got the tires removed. You can obviously see that. And they're going to paint up a little higher on this tank than what we originally thought. Jay's got things to where he's starting to mask off here. We were just going to paint to here, but we're going to continue it up the side here and paint this whole area, just because we had a lot of rusty crap to remove. Sarah went after the parts as far as the brakes and stuff go. The lift axle does not need to have anything done to it, but they took the wheels off so that they could open up that area there. They've got the drums and everything removed from the back axle, and they're going to go ahead and get brake shoes and drums put on here at some point in time after they get done painting. Jared has drove the tractor around some. There's an injector giving an issue. Got something wrong there, so he's got to address that. It's got a little bit of a miss. Not much, but we had D&W Diesel go through the injectors. We're leaning towards just replacing them. They said they were okay, but we're not sure if maybe they're not. So we'll go over and show you what we've got going on with the truck here. We've had some other interruptions, and we're just kind of getting back onto this project here. I have the bracket made that we're gonna put or set the valve body on. We've got that mounted to the left-hand side of the frame. We're gonna set that right on here. We've got 7 work sections, so this is gonna be quite long. That's why this is as big as it is. So we've got our hydraulic valve components over here on the bench. I need to start putting these together. We have one, actually no, I've got another one. I've got a single acting valve here and a single acting one here. We're gonna save that for the next project, but we have, there's 8 of them on the bench here. Now you'll see some of them, there's actually 2, 4, 5, and that one's a tall boy too. These are a little taller than these 2 here. These tall boys will accept the relief valve for each port. The port A and port B can have a relief valve put in there, and you can set the pressure so that it only deliver a certain amount. We're not going to really worry about that because we're going to be working off of system pressure. I used to use a high boy for the tailgate function and not deliver as much pressure to the tailgate function, but you're still dealing with a lot of volume, and it still created a problem as far as the speed, so we ended up using a little bit of a restrictor on the port, and we were able to slow the tailgate function down. So we've got a, let's see if I'm looking at it correctly. We've got an inlet cover here, then we'll stack the work sections in, and then we've got an outlet cover that'll go on the end here, and then we'll go ahead and set this onto that bracket that we have made. Now we have to pop off these caps that are on the back side of the valve. This is just a spring return, so it will return this valve into neutral. We are going to go ahead and put manual handles on these as well, so that you can control these valves from outside the truck. And then we also have air shift cylinders here that we need to put on. I've got a couple of valves that already have, there's an APSCO air shift cylinder already mounted to this valve. This is an APSCO one too. They're just a little shorter, so there's going to be a little bit of a difference there, but not much. So we'll go ahead, get this assembled. We've got a stud kit here for 7 work sections. Those are supposed to be the right length anyways. And once we get that all together, we'll put them new bolts in there and have our shift cylinders on there and our manual control handles. So we need to get things assembled, and then we have a bracket made for the interior up in the cab, the headliner there for all the air controls. Sarah's got all these, got all the fittings installed into the toggle switches. We've got, oh, what do we have here? We've got 5 that are spring return to neutral, and we have 2 that detent. They detent in the position, and we'll use the detentable ones for the tailgate and the hoist. And I just happened to think of it, we need to use a detentable one for the pump function of the spreader. So we've actually got to take one of these apart and pull the fittings out of it and put it in one that has a detent. I forgot about that. So we'll have to have one for the spreader valve, the valve that is going to either to run the manure pump itself. So we need to get this stuff bolted together here. All right, we have our valve stack bolted together. We got 7 work sections. We're running 4 high boys and 3 regulars. These have port reliefs. You can put a relief cartridge in for each port. Kind of described that a little bit ago. However, we are not going to worry about running port reliefs off of that. This is just the type of valves that I was able to get my hands on, and that's what we're running. They're the same as these other ones, just with the port relief. So what we have to do, we've got 2 more shift cylinders to put on. These 2 valves here already had the shift cylinders on there. They're just a little different than the ones that we're putting on. These shift cylinders will be actuated with air. You can run these valves with an electric shift solenoid, air solenoid, cable controls. We're running with air. Air is the simplest way to run these style valves, providing you can get the correct shift cylinder to put on the back of the spool. Now, on the back of the spool where we put the air shift cylinder, there's these cream colored covers, and what there is behind that cover is these springs here. And what these springs do is they return this valve to neutral. There is a spring inside these shift cylinders. These shift cylinders are going to do the same thing. Air to actuate it, and then they'll spring return to neutral. Once we spin the valve around, we'll put the handles on, the manual handles, and then we can mount this valve assembly onto the truck. We have the panel plate for the top of the cab. Made that earlier, got it painted. As Sarah is installing the toggle switches now into that panel plate, and then we'll go ahead and identify what each one of them will do, and we'll kind of describe that as we get more of that put together. She's got the air hoses all run in the cab. You can just about see them hanging down, and we'll have to hook up those air lines into those toggle switches on that dash plate or header plate that she's putting together here now. So we might as well go ahead and show you how these shift cylinders go together here. Now, the shift cylinder itself has a little bolt, a stud here, that is going to be secured right in the back of the spool. You need to put a little bit of Loctite on this stud, and then what you do is you reach in through the back of the air control, right in through where we're going to put an air fitting on. There is an Allen screw in the back side there. You go through that hole. We're just going to push into the spool itself, thread this stud in there. Then what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to hold the spool from the other end. Get this semi tight. Pull our Allen screw out. Then we will put our cap screws in. And that will do it for this shift cylinder. And then what that's doing is it's threading into the end of the spool. Now this valve body assembly here is called a DVA. It's a commercial valve, which commercial was bought out by Parker. So you've got Parker commercial, and it's a DVA or a DVG, either or. The A is lower pressure, like up to 2,500. The G is up to 3,500 PSI. And this valve assembly here will accept like 75 gallons a minute, if I remember right. 55 to 80 gallons a minute. I can't remember the exact volume that this valve will accept, but the style hydraulic pump that we're using, you need to have the valve assembly that's going to accept that much oil. Because what you have oil coming in this inlet cover. It's traveling through this valve assembly, and when all these valves are in neutral, that oil is flowing through. If you have a valve body that is too small, what you'll end up doing, because you've got so much oil, such a volume of oil working out of that pump and returning back to tank, it's running in a constant loop. If you run if you're running a 55 gallon a minute pump and you have a valve body assembly that is only going to handle like 15 or 20 gallons a minute, what that oil does is it rushes through this valve and it's going to find the path of least resistance, and it's going to start to back up through the center of these work sections. And what it'll do is it'll start working pressure towards the A and B port, and you'll have funky things that'll start to go on with the valve body as the oil is rushing through this assembly here. It's kind of like hooking up a garden hose to a fire hose, that if you're going to run that much pressure, that volume of oil has to go somewhere. And you have to have a valve assembly that is going to accept that amount of oil. And we have had the greatest luck with the commercial / Parker valves. There's another one. There's another Parker valve assembly. We've got them on 3 trucks. I can't remember what the part number is, but they're junk. The handles, the manual handle that goes on the other end has a, which I should show you them sometime. We've had a lot of problems with them, and they're nowhere near half the valve that this assembly here is. This is a nice setup. The outlet cover that we are using has a power beyond port to it. We're just going to have to return that back to tank. In other words, what the power beyond does is this will have full system pressure on the outlet. Usually what your outlet has is just return pressure, and we're going to have to put a main cartridge relief in the inlet cover of this valve, so that we have a way to return this pressurized oil. So if we've got the oil coming in on the inlet side and you didn't have a relief, and you went to run one of these valves, say it was a hoist valve, one of these single acting valves, for example, and if you ran the hoist, say you had too much of a load on the hoist and that hoist does not want to run, now you're backing up all of this oil. It has to go somewhere, and the only place it's going is once you run this valve, it's going to divert the oil from running down through the center of all these valves, and it's going to divert it to this port. If in the event that this oil can't go nowhere because of maybe the hoist is overloaded or something, now the oil, you're deadheading the oil. You can blow the pump. So what's going to happen is that oil is going to back up. It's going to come back here. It's going to hit this relief, if you have a relief in there. That's why it's important to have one. It's going to push that relief open, and what it's going to do is it's going to return the oil. You'll hear it squeaking and screaming and hollering, and that's the oil pushing the spring return on the relief. I've got one here somewhere. Here's one right here. This has a large spring inside it. Sarah, open that up, will you? And it'll push that relief open, and it'll open up an alleyway here for this oil to return back down through the valve body, go back to the tank. This, pull it right out. This power beyond is going to be working off a system pressure too, and what you can use this for is you could go to another valve body and do the same thing. You would need, well, it's going to run off the system relief there, but say if you wanted to have a system that wasn't, that you weren't working with as much pressure, say you wanted to dive down to maybe 1,000 psi, you could set up another valve block assembly, come out of this one. It's going to have the same system pressure as the relief itself. This is a system relief right here, and that's going to go in the inlet cover of this valve body. Then your secondary valve assembly, you'd have to have a relief in that inlet cover too. And this outlet cover that has the power beyond it, it's just the outlet cover that we're working with. You can get these outlet covers without a power beyond. However, these are a little more common with the power beyond function, and we'll just return one of these ports. We'll return the power beyond port back to like the filter so that that oil can get back to the tank. We jaw jacked enough. You got your...
You need to tighten them.
You need to tighten them. That looks very nice. Very nice. So this will be up in the headliner of the cab. We will have tailgate function here, hoist there. Which is it in the trucks that we did? Is it tailgate or is it hoist? Hoist? Tailgate's first one?
I think so.
Or is it? No, it's the hoist. Hoist number 1. Tailgate's number 2. Tailgate lock. Winch assembly, non-detent. In other words, it's not going to lock in position. This switch here will do the opening of the spreader valve. There is 2 valves on the Husky tank. You have a valve that will go from spread to transfer, and which will be this next toggle switch here. It's just a safety valve. It's kind of a gate valve that closes off the actual spread plate. And this is going to be a single acting valve. It's just a cylinder, single acting cylinder with a spring return. So the spring keeps it closed. So you'd have to power oil to it. And no, I take that back. No, this one is going to be for the spreader valve itself, and then this one is a spring return. This will open up the valve that goes to the spread plate in the event that he wants to run the spread plate. Then we have boom up and down, and boom swing. So I'm going to get my other shift cylinder in. Well, we're into the following day here now. We've got the 7720 back on the mixer wagon. We're just getting ready to start mixing feed here. We had the 7200 on here. I wanted to get this back on the job as soon as possible here. So we'll just check the oil quick. Oil looks like brand new still, obviously. Now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to run this about 100 hours, and then we're going to want to dump this oil out. It's got break-in oil in it. And, you know, do an oil change after about 100 hours. So let's go ahead and get started here. It's just before 3 a.m. and there's not much to see with it being dark like this. So we'll get the feed loaded up, and then we'll join in with you when we go to dump the first load off here. And then subsequently we'll get back with you once we get some daylight here so you can actually see something. So we'll get the mixers staged here so we can load them, and we'll get fired up and going. Can't see much when it's dark out, so I apologize. We have the 7710 on the other mixer. Alright, we got both mixers loaded up with everything but corn silage. So we'll go ahead and start them mixing, and then we'll get the corn silage loaded, and then we'll go and feed both of them off. Well, we've got the first load of feed about fed off. This tractor has 22,982 hours on it. This tractor we bought used, I don't know how long we've had it now. I'd have to actually look it up. Right, 13, 14 years maybe. This tractor's a couple of years old when we bought it. It had like 1,400 hours on it maybe. Been a great tractor, and all we have ever done with it is feed cows. The first year we had it, the first couple weeks anyways, we did put it on the small baler at the time, but after it did that for a short day or 2 or 3 maybe, then we ended up putting it right onto the mixer wagon, and that's been its job ever since it's been here. So we've got to load up the next couple loads here, and then one of the next loads that we're loading up is for the group to our right. We have different lactating groups on either side of the barn here. That's why we're not feeding off the other side currently right at the moment. So we'll go ahead and get back to the bunk and get things loaded up here and get these next groups fed. Well, Jason's got the masking all removed from the trailer here. And the black looks pretty good on there. We didn't have time to paint the whole stinking trailer, but the hard part was done and we can do the rest another day, another time, but not right now. They're getting the brakes put together now. He's getting the brake shoes on there. You got air supplied to the trailer? Yeah. So we supply the trailer with shop air so that we can release the emergency brake side of the brake chambers. So Lukens is on this other side removing the bushing or the pins that the brake shoes pivot from. They're kind of a pain in the butt, but he's getting them out there. They just pulled truck 9 and we've been using this truck to move feed with because of the door being almost non-existent on the John Deere truck. But we've got an oil pan gasket that we've got to address on this that's leaking pretty good. So being that it's a little warmer out now, we can get away with using the John Deere truck that has just a partial cab on it anymore here. So on this truck that we're working on, we ended up getting these fittings on the back side here to plug the manure tanker into. I kind of screwed up. I had the high flow valves for the spread motor in the center. Well, once I put this fitting on there, I'm like, how are you going to get a draw pin in there? So I kind of screwed up there, but it is what it is. So we've got the valve body assembly assembled. We've got it just setting on the bracket that I've made that this valve body is going to sit on. We're working on getting it mounted down. I've got the handles on for the valves. I got to put 3 more handles on, get that valve body mounted down. Actually, I probably won't quite mount it until I get the air lines hooked up. Waiting for Sarah to get done up in the cab here. Hooking this manifold up, or hooking this toggle assembly up here. That's going to control all of the functions on the side of the truck. So we got 7 hydraulic valves, and then we've got an air-operated tailgate latch. Therefore, we have 8 functions on this dash here. Actually, I've been helping her getting this held into place here because there's a whole menagerie of airlines. Now we've got to work together and push this bracket here that we've made up into this headliner, and then she'll go ahead and get everything put, the molding put back on that corner post on the passenger side and then this driver's side here. On the 2 trucks that we did of our own, we only came down through one side with the airlines, but we only had a supply line and 3 pairs, 6 1/4-inch airlines, and that kind of fit nicely in behind the molding. But if we had what is there, 7, 14, 16, 17 airlines coming down through that, have been about that big around. I just don't think that would have worked. So we'll get this set up into there. We've got a supply manifold here that's got, I forget how many spots, 2, 4, 6, 8 spots to it, 9 spots of supply, and that worked out good. You can buy them at different sizes. You can get them 3, 4, 6, 8, whatever, and it works good to bring air to a setup like this here. So let's go ahead and try to push that up in there. That's going to be kind of fun, isn't it? We're going to need like 8 hands to get that up in there. So we will join up with you in a little bit of a minute here, unless I could stick this camera to something, but I don't think I can.
I don't think so.
No. Are you having fun?
so much.
Yeah. All right. Well, we managed to get that. Well, hold up a second. Before you go any farther with that, we should supply air to it and make sure we don't have any air leaks. So we've got this panel up in here, and there is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 pairs of air hoses coming off of each toggle switch. And then we've got 8 supply hoses coming to the toggle switches from a manifold that is stuffed back in this headliner. So it's together pretty good, but we need to supply that with air to make sure we don't have any leaks in behind here. And then she can continue to put the rest of this headliner together. So I've got a 3/8 air supply line that I need to, I'm just gonna hook it up to shop air. And then we've got to get a pressure protection valve, put on the air tank, and get the 3/8 air line hooked up to the air tank to supply air to that toggle switch assembly. We'll go ahead and hook this up. Alright, now we've got shop air hooked. Can you hear anything up in there? We've got air hooked. Alright, so run each one of them switches, go one way then the other, and just go back and forth. Alright, there's that one. Just go right back and forth through all of them. So she's just running through the functions to make sure those toggle switches are working. And we ended up having to use duplicate colors just because we didn't have 8 different colors. We had yellow, orange, red, blue, green, black. Well, we lacked some. But at any rate, you don't hear any leaks behind there, do you? I can't hear that good, so I think we're good. Alright, so why don't you get the rest of this cab put together. Work from the center there, do your corner post down to the floor. The floor on the right hand side, you could put that kick panel, everything can be put together on the right hand side. Leave this area here open on this left hand side because we've got to run the switch from the PTO. We've got to run the sender wire down to the PTO, so we're going to come through here and down through there. So you can go ahead and get all that hooked in. And while she's doing that, I've got a couple more handles to put on. I see a couple of these handle kits that I've got have short handles, which that's fine. We really don't need handles on each and every one of them, but it is handy to fire a function from the ground here by just being able to grab on to the handle. Now, I was putting these on, and you can put these handles on upside down, but I don't know how handy it is to reach down. This is just a nice height here. Now, it will be handy to have at least the hoist handle on there for when you're unloading corn. You can leave the truck running. Just walk up to the side of the truck. Well, one of these two will be the hoist. Grab onto the valve, raise the hoist, or lower it right from the ground. So, got one more handle to put on, and then we will get this bolted down. Then we can hook our air lines into the shift cylinders. I've got the fittings on the bottom side of these shift cylinders. I've just got to go ahead and put the air fittings on the top. This is just a different kind here, and then get them in the back of these other ones. So we'll go ahead and get some more done, and then we will join back up with you in a little while here. Well, we are just having a grand old fun time here. We needed to get that big spreader in, so we ended up moving things around. Put this truck over in this bay. We took the silage body out of here, a couple of days ago. We're just getting ready to hook up these air lines. We got a freaking air leak up in the ceiling of the cab here. Sarah's taking everything apart here now. I'm gonna have to help her with that in a second here. We'll get that toggle switch assembly out here, and we'll see just what is leaking. What did that? So it's the supply. All right, so what's it doing? Here, hold on to this camera. I think I can just push it in. Like that. Oh. All right, I'm gonna cut the air, and we'll pull that out, cut it off, and push it back in.
All right.
All right, so what was it? This one here?
Oh yeah, the plate. I don't like.
Do we just cut it off?
Can't you just put a new?
Push it back in. It's not loose, right?
No.
Yeah, let's try it. Maybe it's loose. Maybe you didn't get that one tight enough.
I am just a girl.
It's tight enough. That push lock might have a problem.
Yeah.
But we are pushing 150 psi to it with the shop air. And that truck's only gonna push 120. So I don't know. Yeah, that push lock is no good.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna have to do, we had a problem with, maybe it was one up on the manifold there yesterday when we set this up, but we'll have to take this push lock out, put a new one on it, fire it up again, and we'll join back up with you in a little bit of a second. I'm going to get a 7/16 socket. Take that out. I got some talking to do here. So they ended up getting the spreader here painted, and they've got, well, they've just painted in this area here. They've got the brakes on it, tires are on it, and they ended up putting a new set of fenders on. So Jared is hooking up the lights right now. He's putting a new lights and wire harness and whatnot into it, and they're gonna haul manure here tomorrow. We'll go over next door and we'll show you what we're doing with the new tanker. But that black looks kind of nice, huh? Yeah. So they also have truck 9 in here. This has got a bearing gone out on the front of the pinion. Sarge and Garrett are working on that. They have got that tore apart there. It needed a brake canister, and they grabbed a hold of the drive shaft yesterday, wiggled it around, and they had a little play in it. So Sarge took that apart And he's got the bearing assembly over on the bench here. Got to get a new bearing for it. And this oil pan was leaking as well. Now we had the oil pan out of the 900, and that had like a multi-segmented gasket that went on the oil pan. This truck here has a C12 in it. Same year as this one. They're both 2000s. I don't know what series engine this is, but this has a single piece gasket, and you know, it's got quite a large nice gasket. Usually when you put these in, you don't have any problems. Where did you see it mainly leaking?
It was right out of the
Front left corner?
Yeah, you can see where there's no silicone on the corners of it.
Oh, okay. Another problem, another thing that we have leaking on this truck is the power steering pump gasket is leaking too. That pump was loose, so we might be able to get away with just tightening that up. And did Fry have a bearing? He did. Okay. 4 o'clock. Did you want to run there now, or you want to? Yeah, whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter to me. So we'll show you what they're doing to this spreader here. They had a brake caliper leaking on it, and Nate took that off. He just got done rebuilding it, and he's putting it back on. This is the front bearing holder that goes in that drive assembly on that differential of that truck there. But Nate's all back together, so we're not going to be able to show you too much here, are we, Nate? Got a nice toolbox bracket welded on here. Look at the weld job on that. That's welded pretty solid, huh? That's overkill, ain't it? Probably. Yeah, look at that. By Jesus, you do know how to weld, don't you?
He does?
Wow, that's pretty good.
Boy, I wouldn't have guessed you were capable
We'll
of
have
that.
we'll have to throw some paint on there. That'll make you look like even a better welder yet. So he had to have this inside here, and he had to get the caliper off so that he could separate it, and put some new O-rings in there. He had to replace one piston, and he replaced the brake pads on it. Now, Nate, you're gonna have to wipe all this grease and oil off. Just get some real good stuff on there. Get that cleaned off. You might want to jack this back up, roll it around so you can get right after it there. So he'll finish that up, and they're gonna spread tomorrow. It's dry enough out, so you need some paint for that, eh? He welded that on there so that he could put one of these John Deere toolboxes on there to carry some tools with him, so he hasn't got to have everything up in the cab with him. That's what that bracket is for. If I didn't mention that, they wouldn't know what you put that on there for. Right? Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna see if we can't maybe get this air leak taken care of, so we can hook up these air hoses on this hydraulic valve assembly here. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and grab one of these. Let's reach down in here. Well, we've got all these air lines where we need them to go. We just need to shorten them up a little bit and make everything look a little neater. I lack 2 fittings. I need 2 more 90-degree fittings to put in the back of these longer shift cylinders. And then I can hook up these other 2 hoses, but they're color coordinated, so we can figure that out pretty good. What we have is we're supplying air to the truck with shop air, just so we didn't have to start the truck up and having it run and everything else. So we should be able to get this valve body bolted down now that we've got the air lines hooked up, because where they come into the bottom of the shift cylinder is kind of hard to get them pushed in with the valve mounted securely down on the plate there. So we've still got air hooked up and nothing seems to be leaking. So she's putting that back together there. We've got the right-hand side all buttoned up and put back together. We're gonna leave this left side open so that we can run the wires to the PTO over and across. We brought the air hoses here down through this passenger side, half of them, just so that it was going to be too many hoses to come down through that driver's side. So I ended up putting this side in a fire hose sheath, and we secured them tightly up out of the way just because we have the exhaust coming over on this side. We're not going to run into any trouble because we're far enough away right there, and then we've got plastic stuff even closer down on the bottom side, but I just wanted to get that nicely wrapped there so we didn't have any problems. We've got to do a little better job here of tying these hoses up where they come down over the top of the transmission. We do have some hydraulic lines that we're going to be running in through here when we set the PTO and the pump up. So we'll do a little neater job of getting in there and hooking those hoses up. So Nate's putting a toolbox on this spreader now. He ended up splashing some red paint on the side of the spreader. This is just a John Deere toolbox that we had laying around. Yeah, that paint is a decent match, ain't it? I don't know what that bracket came off of.
It's got a Deere part number, huh?
Yeah, I don't know if that was on like the 9320 maybe on the side. I bet you that's where that came from. You know, bolted to the side of the frame, or maybe it was on this 9410. So, but with his tools here, it'll be a lot better than up in the cab. What he needs is 15/16 wrenches, 3/4 inch wrenches and sockets, just to replace shear bolts and whatever on this injector. So we're gonna work at getting the truck buttoned up here, and we'll kind of keep you posted as we go here. Utilizing the flashlight, see if you wore a hat,
I don't need a hat.
you'd be able to clip that right to your hat. We'll have to get you one of them pair run flashlights that you put right on your head. It's got an elastic band on it.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what I need.
So she's got a little, what is that?
I don't know.
Is it a,
Like the
they
one you
call it a, yeah, this little light here is like the one I have. Did this come in a case? Does it got the charger case or no?
No.
This one here is a Baton 2. The Baton 3 that they have, it has a little case. It almost looks like a Zippo lighter. And the case charges the flashlight. But if you had a hat, you'd be able to clip it right to your hat and you'd be able to get that put together. Here's your light back.
Yeah, I kind of need that.
You kind of need that, huh? So, but yeah, so we'll leave her alone and we will start tidying this area up here. It's kind of messy looking with the hoses all askew there. All right, they ended up getting the tanker out of here. They're gonna haul manure tomorrow. Sarah's got the headliner piece put back in. There is one little cubby holder thing that goes in above the sun visor on this driver's side that she's got to get put in, and then we need to put this kick panel on this driver's side. Once we get the PTO hooked up, we've got the hoses for the hydraulic valve all hooked up. We've got them shortened up, cleaned up a little bit. We've got to hook up some, we've got to get some zip ties on them. We ended up hooking up the return line from the valve body going back through the filter housing. I've got to make a hydraulic high pressure hose that'll return oil from the power beyond back to the filter housing, and then it'll run it back through the system. We've got the return line running over to the tank. We'll kind of show you what that looks like there. We've got that hooked up there. And then the suction hose that I have for the hydraulic pump itself is laying in there, but we need to get the PTO and the pump on before we actually hook that up. So what we're going to do is we're going to work from here back. We need to make all the hoses up for the hydraulic valve, run them to the back of the truck, get the hoist hooked up, get all that stuff done, and then once we get that done, we can get the PTO and the pump on there. And then we need to build the rail system. So that's gonna do it for this video. I wanna thank you for watching, and we will catch you at the next one. Jared's got some mud flaps just to put on this green diller, but he's gonna go ahead and haul it tomorrow anyways. Roads are clean, driveways ought to be dry. Who needs mud flaps, correct?
Yeah, DOT.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the main thing on these dual-wheeled trucks, the mud flaps really aren't for mud. They are to keep a stone from going through a windshield. You could get a softball-sized stone caught in between the tire, and then it could go right through somebody's windshield. You got this rubber flap here. It'll hit the flap and hopefully fall down to the road. So that is gonna do it. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you at the next one. Right, Sarah?
What did you have this ground wire going to?